Good afternoon, everybody. The team. Yeah, so the team is obviously two guys getting the 50 caps, which is great. And then, yeah, the way we thought about the team, it's our first match of the season. We would like to try and win. Obviously, after this, until the end of the year, on certain games we will rotate and give other guys opportunities. But a pretty settled team, and I guess you all got it in front of you. Probably question marks would be why Wilco is not in. I'm pretty sure you can ask that. And Hendra covering hooker off the bench, and then also not any lock specialist on the bench. We've got Marco and Cameron, but his name Peter Steff will cover lock for us. And then 5-3 split, but we know Andre can obviously cover loose forward for us as well. Reserve fly-off will be Damien Willemse, that plays fullback. Damien Dalende is vice captain for us. We picked Mani. Andre will probably get a run with with one of the other two nines will probably play in the next game. And yeah, obviously there's a few injuries. Sosa's injured, hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks. Luet maybe next week. Back, Riley unfortunately pulled his hamstring in grade 3, so that's bad for him. The locks are certainly getting injured in our environment. But probably the question on Zach and Wilco. What we see in training session, Zach is definitely scrumming against Ox and guys like Gerard Steenekamp is doing a really great job. And we feel, he can do a good job for us, especially at altitude. And if you look at the team of England, it's a youthful team, I can call it that way, and a mobile team, and we feel we might need that in the game. I don't know if I've answered most of the questions.
That probably goes without saying, but does that mean that Boxer will avoid that mindset?
No, I mean, obviously when it's on, we would love him to exploit when it's on. I think one of the, just Sasha is injured, Kieran playing for us there, of course, Mani had a full season at Japan and he's always very fit, and we had 1 week more to prepare with him than we had with Andre because the Bulls were playing still in the final. So, we all know the way Mani plays, so hopefully when it's on, he does, but obviously we would like to play a game that we control. And I'm pretty sure England's going to make it tough for us there, but a selection that we think fit for this game, and if the game really opens up, which I think England will try and do, I think Mani is the right guy for that.
What exactly are you guys hoping to get out of the first 6 matches of this season?
No, to win. That's obviously the thing. I'm pretty sure England's got exactly the same mindset. We haven't played really for 7 months. Last November, or was it middle of November? This is the Barbarians was a nice warm up and to get some guys into the structures and get to know some guys. And the SAA game was the same. But this is a test match against England. We get big test matches, and England is certainly one of them. So, no, that will be our goal. Sorry, what was the second part? No, Riley got injured at our training. Unfortunately, probably the second last move of the training session, he just pulled his hamstring while chasing. It wasn't a weird incident. He just pulled it out. Maybe from our side, Jaco Williams also had a hamstring, but he's fully fit now. I think that the junior guys coming in, maybe the intensity in the beginning of the training session, because they really pushed the older guys really hard. And I think maybe 3 weeks, I wouldn't say it was our fault, but I think maybe for the younger guys, keeping up with that all the time, because him and Jaco had a hamstring. Jaco is fully fit now and will be available for selection this weekend, he was. And for next weekend, unfortunately, Riley pulled it, and it's a bad hamstring injury.
Obviously, just on Wilco Louw, do you sense a bit of fatigue in there maybe? I mean, you played a lot of rugby for the Bulls, and obviously there's been a lot of sort of expectation on him to deliver.
Wilco had a tough, not to get into his personal life, but I mean, there was some illness in the family, and some, our family passed away, and it was ill in one game, and he had a tough last 5-6 weeks. And also, again, we worked with Zach a week longer. And as I say, Zach, and obviously what's his name, starting, is quite solid for us at tight end, and Zach coming off the bench. He's somebody he's a really mobile prop, and he's really impressed at scrum sessions. And we feel Wilco just needs 1 week to settle in a little bit, and we think his body took some hammering in the last couple of weeks. So that's the reason.
In the past, you had pretty good stabs at predicting England's team.
I didn't know it would last time make such a big story. Obviously, we got an idea, but it's a guesstimate. So, we have an idea, but I'm not going to read it out again. Then it's a big story. Obviously, we calculate and summarize and do profiles on them, but we're not sure 100%.
Could you maybe sum up what the rivalry with England?
Sorry?
Could you sum up what the rivalry with England means to the team and maybe the country as well?
Yeah, of course. I can remember when I was playing, we were going for 17 matches in a row, and to win on the Nick Mallet, and I'll never forget England took it away from us there, and it's just a great rivalry always against us. I played in the game in the World Cup where Yanni de Beer dropped 5 drop goals, and we went through to the next stage, and they didn't, and they've done some things where they took some glory away from us just the way they play the games. And then obviously we had some World Cup finals against them, and some pretty important games. Some were 1-pointers, so it's always tough. They're one of the countries who've, like us, which have a lot of rugby players. I think French has the most, and I think England has the second most, and I think we've got the third most players in the world. So the strength in their numbers is really good, and then the money in the Premiership where some of our players play, and the standard of the Premiership is really high. So for us, it's an honour playing against them, and we always see that as one of the toughest test matches especially for some of the young guys like Cameron and other guys who's playing in this match. Not a lot of them has played against England in our squad, and some of the guys who's playing this weekend, for them it's the first really big test match.
Razzie, can I ask you about the appointment of Joe Lewis, how that came about, and also what impact did he have this week, given he's so familiar with England?
No, for 100%. We always had only one analyst. And I think if you go and look at any of the tier 1 nations, some have 5. I think the French has got 8 guys just getting data. I know England also has a lot. So we were looking for another analyst, and Joe was available. So obviously we always scan everywhere. Paddy is an Irishman, but he worked in the French league a hell of a lot. So you get some good info and some good things that they do in that league, analysis-wise. And obviously, if you get a guy of his caliber being available, it's just fantastic to have him here. And he was available. We had only 2 analysts. We have 3 now. I still think we're far off of the other countries, other tier 1 nations who's got more analysts. We were always in the mode of just one analyst gathering data, and then the coaches would filter it. And what him and Paddy, Lindsay, Paddy, and Joe brings to us now, we've got them all in different departments. So Paddy is with the scrums and the line out, Lindsay is with the back line, and then Paddy is, for example, with the attack, and they rotate a little bit. So it's good to get a fresh voice with some new ideas in.
This week particularly, so familiar with England.
Yeah, of course he's familiar with England. Yeah, without a doubt. It's like when Matthew Proudfoot moved away from us in 2019. The next year we played England. Matthew Proudfoot knew a lot of us. There's a guy called Byron McGuigan. He spent a whole week with us as Sales Sharks coach, and he was the whole week with us. And I'm pretty sure he's got a lot of stuff on us. So Eddie Jones moved from Australia to England, and then from England to Japan, and obviously some IP gets transferred, and same with Joe.
Eamon Willems are playing their 50th game this weekend.
Obviously I'm excited. I only got back into the group that Monday morning before we played Barbarians, so I didn't think it would be likely that I would have played that game, just because the guys have been preparing the week before as well. So, but just to be back in the environment is always special. To represent South Africa and to represent the Springboks is what I've always dreamed of, and to get another chance to do it. Yeah, I'm extremely excited, and yeah, just for a guy like Cheslin and Gaza, they've both come a long way in their rugby careers. I think Cheslin has gone through a lot of injuries, so has Gaza. They've taken, I think, quite a a bit longer to get to their 50th test, but that speaks of the rugby guys that they are, and their resilience in just trying to stay better every season. And yeah, we'll congratulate them after the game, and hopefully we can make it extra special for them on Saturday.
What is one of the most memorable test matches against England in your experience?
The most memorable, probably beating them in 2019 in the World Cup final. But the most memorable one for me would definitely be in Ellis Park in 2018. I think it was our second test match together under Rassie. Yeah, I think we were down by nearly 30 points in the first 20 or 30 minutes. And we were obviously trying to get into new things and try new things out under the new coaching staff. And yeah, to stand behind the Poles, I think it was after their third or fourth try in the first half. We didn't have, I don't think we had any answers back then because we were still learning quite a lot. We didn't know a lot either, but we just said we're going to have to do what we do as South Africans and bring out our natural ability, which helped us become Springboks. And I could just feel on the field that day, and I get goosebumps now thinking about it, when we started just being ourselves on the field and doing what we do to get us to become a Springbok. And just to feel the whole momentum swing within that first half as well, and just to feel how the energy just changed in the stadium completely. It was definitely my most memorable win in South Africa against England.
Your thoughts on Thomas? And
Yeah, sorry. Thomas, and we come a long way. In 2019, he didn't make the World Cup squad, and when Trevor got injured, Thomas flew in, and I remember he had some friends and family that travelled there because it was such a close call. Should he go and shouldn't he go? And some of his family members went to the World Cup without him being at the World Cup. And then Trevor got injured. And since then, Thomas is a real good student of the game. He's a very professional guy. And he certainly, I think he's in Bath, they made him a really valuable team member in the team. And when he came back to us, I remember early years when it was Ox, Beast and so on, we said to him, move to tight head, because where are you going to play if you want to play Springbok? And at the Sharks, they then moved him to tight head. And when we got him back last year, we needed him at loose head, and he played the first game loose head, and he said, no, I'm a tight head now. And since then, what he does in the team environment is awesome, like most guys in the team. And you know, I think he got man of the match a few times. They scored tries there. But Test match rugby is a level up, and I'm sure the English players will know him pretty well. So, and he will know them pretty well. So, no, he's a good man. He deserves all the credit he's getting, but he must just keep on doing it fast.
What are you hoping to see from your team put out there at this park? And also maybe just on Cheslin Kolbe, you give him an opportunity at this level to see him come all the way to 50 caps and have 2 World Cups under his belt. Just some of his journey within the Springbok level.
Yeah, I'll start with Cheslin. Cheslin, all of us said he was too small in the beginning. And I remember John Dobson said to me once, he was coaching the Western Province under-20 team, and he said to me, we wanted to use Cheslin. He said, can you just please release him for this under-20 game? It was like a semi-final or final. And he said, listen, this guy can change the game around on his own. That's how good he is. And we released him, and he helped John Dobson in that game, and I think they won. And he wasn't a regular member in our setup, but then even in that game, New Zealand, which we won at Wellington, he came in actually very late, and he changed the game again with that intercept that he scored. You know, he's changed the game against the French when he charged down Ramos. You know, he changed the game again against Wellington. The last game we played with the intercept, because we were actually down there and they were on their way to score a try and Cheslin intercept. But I think the big thing about Cheslin is he's a small man, but he's got a big heart, and he serves the team well. And I couldn't believe that he's only getting now to 50 caps. It feels like he's been around so long. So very glad for him, and hopefully, milestones doesn't change the flow of the game. Milestones doesn't change the motivation in the game. It's for those two guys very special, and if we win, it will be special for him. We love him and we're very proud of him. What was the other question?
It's just about what boxes I think.
Boxes we tick is obviously seeing a guy like Cameron Hanekom coming on and hopefully perform. Of course, we all think he has it, but he's never played a big test match. But he's got all the ability. Obviously, we think Zach is really a good player, and especially when it comes to scrumming. He's learned a lot from Wilco and Thomas and those guys. And then Jan-Hendrik Aduka, he's a guy, when he came through our EPD system, he was ranked number 1 from under 15 right through. And you feel the guy must have more test matches now, and there's some bad things that happened with him, the ban last year when we lost him. So, we hope he can also get through the game without the injury and having a good game. And then obviously, how quickly can we get cohesion in a team and alignment in a team and the togetherness in the team is very important for a really tough season. So I guess those are the things.
Rossi, Northampton won the Premiership, and there's a lot of their players expected to be in that starting lineup. Just your thoughts, is that the blueprint that you think England's going to follow?
There is a lot, and they also played still last weekend, so they would have celebrated probably Saturday night, and they flew in here Wednesday. That's why we say it's tough to quickly align people, but if they have a lot of Northampton players in, except 9-10 will be the same. There might be a wing that's the same. I mean, we think there's a few of their guys going to be in. It's probably how quickly a team sinks, same with us. But yes, they've got that winning feeling, and they're on a high, and that sometimes, as I said, it would have been great if the Bulls won and you get that in. But then on the other side, if you lose like the Bulls, there's a hunger to rectify it, and that's also a bit of a positive. So I think their positive is Northampton did well. Obviously, they had 2 English teams in the Premiership final, which will always be like that. Pollock, 9-10, it's good players, very good players.
Hey, Rosie, similar question to Brendan, but Steve Borthwick comes here under pressure after England's worst Six Nations. You said last week these guys are actually coached by numbers. I wonder why you think England therefore might want to come and play an open game where the blueprint has been the opposite.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's why I'm saying, for me to predict what they're going to do, we guess and we look at how they did play. And the last game against France, which they only just lost, they could have won, should have won. So it's difficult to judge. They fly over on Wednesday. Are they over the altitude? Probably. Are they adapting to this altitude? Probably. Are they good players who's young and energetic? Yes, they are. Will that fit a nice open running game, which they did in that game against the French? I think so. So, but they didn't win. Would they buy into that? And that's why it's so difficult to comment on what the other coach do. And I don't think it's even the place to try and comment how they do. It's more analyzing them in facets of the game and see how you can maybe win facet by facet. Defense, scrums, lineouts, and you put it in departments and try and win those departments and then hopefully win the game. But they will do exactly the same.
Just a further one on Cheslin, to the extent that we are where do you start looking to replace those caliber of players? Like Cheslin is probably on the other side of 30. There's still a lot more right that take Damien Williams will play. But when you start planning for the future, you start looking for like replacements. Where do you start?
With a specific position.
Yes, with them just as players and the qualities that they bring.
No, you've got Siaya, you've got Edwill, you've got Jaco Williams, you've got Cheswell, so all those boys are coming through. That's why Jaco is here. Hopefully he gets a run in the next 2 games. Cheswell was very close to be picked, but we are very mindful what the junior box do for us and what the structure in SA Rugby do for us. we said that Riley is injured and can't go there and play. We wanted to play him one game and then send him back so he can play for the junior Springboks there. So, no, that's why we have the young guys in. Riley would have got a run with us. Yaku would probably, Cheswell is probably close. So, I think the pipeline is good. It's just how do you introduce them? And it's tough in a year before World Cup because there's some other guys who's a little bit older than them, like Edwell, who hasn't got a proper run. You know, a Fussy, a Q and Horn. Those guys don't have a lot of caps and they're still very young. Yeah, so they're there. It's now, but probably this year is a big year for us, and then it's World Cup, and then you can start maybe introducing a lot of them.
How do you keep yourself motivated going into a new international season?
For me personally, I want to get better, and the most important thing for me is I'm really still enjoying my rugby. And I don't think if I was enjoying my rugby, I wouldn't feel like I'm making a difference here or where I play in Japan. But that's just for me personally. I still feel very motivated. I still feel like I want to still be the best in the world, and I still want to chase maybe one more World Cup, which I'd love to achieve. But it's also, I take it week by week. I know I'm getting older, but yeah, I like to, just like I said now, I like to stay in it week to week, but I also know that there are a lot of good youngsters coming up, and yeah, I still feel like for me personally, I feel like I'm improving every week. I'm learning from them as well, and that's the most important thing.
Damien, Russell spoke about some tight games that the Boks have had in England in the past, and you've been part of many of those games. What are you sort of expecting from this England side? Looks like it's going to be a relatively young side, but there's still experienced players in that squad.
Yeah, like Coach Rashi just said now about the Northampton players, so they've obviously, when you watch the Premiership, they play good brand of rugby. They're very attacking, and they've got very good players as well. So, like we've predicted, that some of them might be involved. They obviously still have a very good kicking game. They want to get into the aerial battle and things like that. But like Coach Rashi just said, we can speculate anything. We know what we want to do and what we want to achieve on the field. We'll do our best to prepare ourselves to understand them better, so that when we get there on Saturday, we can work things out quickly and make sure that we stay as tight as we can on the field and make sure that we get our things right on the field.
Is it the kind of ground, specifically Ellis Park, where you can get a bit carried away? I mean, there's talk about open running games, and
Yeah.
so is that a danger?
I personally find Ellis Park, you know, for me, Bloemfontein, Mbombela, PE and Cape Town is different crowds. The Ellis Park crowd and the Loftus crowd is, when you're not doing that well, you almost feel the pressure from a crowd, how they're disappointed when you don't do well. So it sometimes happens on Ellis Park, and then, so at least the memory is still fresh of Australia, I can promise you. And the memory is still fresh of England going up, like Damien said, 25-3 or something like that. And yeah, it's such a fast game normally. The ball travels further, it's high, the ball travels higher with box kicks, you know, and the altitude, even though both of the teams will be adapted, you still get more tired. So how you use the subs and so on is pretty important. And yeah, I mean, they last beat us there in 1972. Somebody just told me that. So I was born that year in 1972 when they last beat us there. But then again, Australia hasn't beaten us for, I think, in the history, but last year they beat us there. So it's tough to say history plays a big part on Ellis Park. It's actually on the day, who's the team, who's the referee, is there wind, who's the ARs, you know, do the captain communicate good with the referee, are we sinking quick enough, you know, do we get dominance, do they get dominance? So it's, you know, it's always 70 by 100 meter field, it's always the same. So but there is history around it, but it's tough to say that motivates you, you know, because when you're on that field, you don't think history, oh, we must protect 1972, you know, it's you must try and beat the team in front of you.
As you mentioned Henry Pollock earlier, he's a guy who South African rugby fans seem to love to hate. Do you know why that is?
Yeah, you see, all we can do, and we always say there's three realities. It's opposition reality, our reality, and then the media and the world's reality. Now, we try to stay our reality as close as the truth. And the truth is a flippin' good rugby player. I almost said he's a very good rugby player. And not just on the defensive side or the attacking side, also on the physical side. So, you know, for us to comment on a guy like him, not knowing what his contribution as a character in their team is, will be stupid, because we don't know. His teammates might love him, and then what the hell, or they probably love him. What the hell does it matter what the world say then? Because his teammates love him and he does well there. We've had players like that in the past, you know, and some guys' characters are just that people latches onto that and then they form an opinion. We've had many. Sasha wasn't that mold. So all we can do is analyze how he plays rugby, and he's a massive threat, you know. So the pundits like to create a little bit, obviously the fans when they're upset, but none of us can say we know him as a person. So how can we judge him?
Wesley, do you have a priority?
Sorry?
Do you have a priority this year? Obviously, you've got the Three Nations Championship.
Yeah.
And then you've got the big series against New Zealand. Do you have a priority?
Yeah, honestly, no. A priority is for us to keep momentum and belief. You know, our South African fans are I think when we started out, I started out as a player. I think there was like 7-8 million avid supporters, and I think we're about 20 million now. Now, our supporters get into us, good and bad, and they live with us, and they're happy with us, and they cry with us, and they talk to us through social media, through letters to them. You know, and we appreciate that more than when we gets offended. About that, why did I go there? What was your
What's your priority?
So our priority is to keep them believing, to keep them proud, and to win games so that it stays the way it is currently. It's terrible when it's not going that way, and the supporters are disappointed, and we are disappointed, because it's not nice. Then rugby is something that almost divides. And we want rugby to unite. So that will probably be our biggest aim.